guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And anybody who watches Magic TV will know how excited I am about having this next guest on the channel. I rave about his material. I'm a huge, massive fan. I think he's one of the most creative people on the planet and just a super nice guy as well. And he's one of those creators, genuinely, that when something comes out, I'll just buy it sight unseen because I know it's going to be commercial, and it's also going to be a completely different method to anything out there. I am, of course, talking about the legend himself, the one and only Mr. Roddy McGhie. How you doing, Roddy?
Good, thank you.
I'm so excited.
Slightly embarrassed, but that's good.
I don't care. I'm fanboying over you, man. You are so good.
Get out of here.
It's true. It's true. It really is. Like, we'll get into the stuff that you create later on, but you got to remember, I'm a reviewer, so I see a lot of magic tricks.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of rehashed stuff that's like, okay, here's another example of that trick, and there's virtually no difference. Here's another example of that trick, and they've changed the cards to blue instead of red, and apparently that's a good enough reason to release it. And then you come out and you're like, right, okay, well, I'm just going to turn this entire plot completely on its head, and I'm going to do this. And it's a lot of the stuff that you release, it's not based on something else. And we'll talk about this when we talk about your creations, but you know, stuff like Little Door, which is obviously an iconic Roddy McGhie product, no one's ever seen anything like that before. Like, it's just insane, but in a good way. So yeah, I'm fanboying over you, but I've got reason to, because you're amazing. But yeah, I mean, thanks for doing the interview. I want to talk all about you. I want to talk about all about your career and everything that you do, and I want to pick your brains when it comes to creativity. But if there is somebody somewhere in the world that's living under a rock that doesn't know who you are, and I very much doubt it, especially with you now working with Penguin, which means that you've had a much higher profile over the last few years, I doubt there's anybody out there that doesn't know you. But let's just give them a frame of reference. And I always start these interviews the same way, by talking about your origin story. So my question is, what's your origin story? How did you first get into magic?
Probably the same. It's boring, you know. It's going to be the same as pretty much every magician you talk to. It's getting the bug when you're like 7, you know. The whole my grandpa used to do little tricks, but nothing big, just little silly things, you know. Like things like he would like put a bit of tinfoil on his finger and do the little thing like that, and all those sorts of things. And we used to watch Tommy Cooper together. That was a thing. Tommy Cooper and Paul Daniels, you know, because I'm of that age. And that's how I kind of got into it. But really the kind of getting into it properly, it was that thing of getting the magic set and stuff. But it was actually a neighbour that got the magic set, and he was so frustrated with it because, you know, like traditional magic sets, they're aimed at like these kids 6, 7-year-old, but the instructions are just impenetrable. They're like a tiny writing, the thing you fold out, and kids don't get it, right? So he gave it to me because he was like, pfft, and I was really interested in all these shiny things, and I couldn't understand the instructions either, but I just made tricks up with them, right? I just did what I did with them. And then I did little shows for my friends and you know, out at the front of the house and stuff like that kind of thing. And then there was a magic shop opened round the corner from my primary school, and it was really incongruous, really weird. It's not that I was, my school wasn't a particularly rough area, it was fairly rough, but the magic shop was just an odd place for it to be in Renfrew, just opposite the cobblers and round from the butchers, just this weird, you know, thing, like Mr. Ben-like appearance one day. And it was David Haggerty, this magician from Paisley, that opened the shop, and I was just drawn into it, you know what I mean, as you would be, all these big glittery boxes with dragons on them and stuff like that. And I'd go in after school. It's funny, my mum was talking about this the other day, how I was a wanderer as a child, always a wanderer. They were always wondering where I was, like I'd come home from school an hour later, and it's because I'd seen a leaf on the way home and I was playing with it, or you know, I get distracted by a pigeon. It's like my mind is always wandering. My report cards always said, Roderick has his head in the clouds, or or Roderick is always at the cow's tail. There were things like that. That was my report card, right? And I haven't really changed. I still wonder about, like, time is a kind of concept that I kind of understand, but I'm not very good at dealing with it, really. So, and unfortunately, my daughter has inherited that, and I've had to say to her, look, see, if you think something is going to take 10 minutes, 10 minutes to you and I is not the same as 10 minutes to other people. For you, 10 minutes has to be half an hour, right? So if someone says, you be there in 10 minutes, give yourself half an hour, because you'll be distracted by something flying past, or a piece of paper you found on the ground. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I digress. So I used to go into the shop when I was supposed to be going home, and he would show me tricks, but I couldn't afford to buy all these fancy things, but he'd show me how they worked, like mirror boxes and stuff, and then I would attempt to make my own version of them at home, just out of crap, like out of my sister's makeup mirror. I remember that wasn't popular, things like that. And then one day he said to me, do you want to, we have this club, it's called the Magic Circle, so do you want to come along? We're taking on junior members. And I think you had to be 12 or 13 maybe, but I was like maybe 10 or 11. So he said, just tell them you're 13. So I had to say, I had to lie about my age, and I did my little audition and I got in. So all this talk of Stephen Mulhern or whatever being the youngest ever member, this guy. But anyway, so I got into Paisley Magic Circle, and it was weird because the other junior members, a couple of years at that age makes a big difference. So they were older than me, and they had posh tracks that they bought and little brass things and stuff, and I had my little things made out of toilet roll tubes and stuff like that. So I got a bit of a hard time from the other junior members, really. I didn't really make friends with any of them, but a lot of the old guys were like, oh, that's great, son, Like Val Laval was one of the members there, and he was really lovely, and he was very encouraging. He would say, no, you carry on with that, that's really good, because I was making my own stuff. But then the typical story with most magicians, you get to that age where you lose interest, and you get more interested in other things, and you fall away from it. And this is the story for everyone, I think, of our sort of generation. Blaine comes along, and you see it and you go, I can do that, I can do that, right? But like, it wasn't cool until he came along and made it cool. And then I start getting back into it again. I'm like, right, I'm going to get back into this. And
how old were you when you got back into it, by the way?
Just probably, I dabbled a little bit, throughout school, little tricks here and there. But it was when Blaine's first special came out, so I can't even think of what age I would have been then. When would that be? I can't even remember what year.
Late 90s, wasn't it? Or
late 90s. God, so for me, the late 90s was like, what, 10 years ago? You know what I mean? I still think like 2000 was like, what, 10 years ago at least. So yeah, probably, what age was it? 90? So God, I must have been in my 20s, right? Okay. So he comes along, I'm like, I'm going to get into this again. And I start picking it back up, and I pick up a little gig here and there. Actually, my first gig was my brother. My brother he has his own business, and he's very entrepreneurial and very serious and hardworking. So, as most siblings are, we're very different. And he's always berating me like, man, if I could do what you do, I'd be making a fortune, and I don't doubt it, But we are very different, It's like, if you were, you wouldn't do what I do, right? Because you think differently, you do a different thing, and I couldn't do what he does, right? So he just set up this gig with me, right? You're doing this Christmas party. It's for a colleague I know, and they sent me along, and I just, oh God, I was thinking back on it the other day. I did some awful stuff, awful material, but I did the stuff. I remember doing the Balducci levitation in the restaurant for a bunch of people. A close-up gig, just because I could do it. Someone had said, oh, have you seen that David Blaine? And I was like, right, everyone stand there. No one did it, and it worked. It went down well. But man, that's not a close-up worker, that. But at the end of it, the guy went to stuff money into my pocket. I had sort of tailored suit. I remember him breaking the thread in my pocket, stuffing money in. He was like, here you go. And I was like, no, because I was doing it for free. But when I went out of the car and I took it out, he'd give me 60 quid. And I was like, oh my God. And that was it, right? I was like, £60? And I just went and showed them some tricks. So it just kind of went from there. So yeah, that's the origin, really. The same as everyone else's, pretty much, you know. But a lot of people could thank. Did
you become a full-time pro after that then, after doing your first gig?
No, not for years and years. Like I basically my work went from it was that whole thing of wanting to go to art school. That was the thing I wanted to do at school, but I was just, as I said earlier, my head in the clouds. So I just ambled through school. You know, I would just turn up every day, having a good laugh. That's my memory of school. Try not to laugh for a whole day, you know, with my friends, and not really listening and just getting C's and everything, because it's like I would turn up and look at it and go, I don't know, I'll just guess, because I wasn't listening all year. So I ambled through school and then ended up, I remember going to a careers officer and he said, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't really know. And he said, that's bad paper. He says, what about working with kids? And I was like, oh, okay. You know, I hadn't really thought about it. All right. And he says, what about working with people with disabilities? And I was like, well, I suppose. I don't know. He's like, what about disabled kids? He was working up to this. And I was like, okay. And he's like, right, you start tomorrow. And it was working in this school with children with disabilities. That was my very first job, other than sort of the whole paper run and all that kind of stuff. And then I just went from there, working in care pretty much, training as a nurse. I managed a homeless service. I worked in mental health for about 15 years and just doing all that, you know, and then doing gigs at the same time kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was just doing a series of like super stressful jobs that I didn't really want to do. But you just do it because this is what you do. You've got to work and you earn a living, and you don't think you can make a living pursuing your passion, you know, because that's what other people do. And you just get on with it, and then suddenly, you know, you make the change. And
what was the catalyst for you making the change? What was the catalyst for you going, you know what, I'm done with this. This is something I kind of just fell into. I'm good at it, but this is something I love doing more, and that's what I'm now going to focus on. How did that come about?
It was, you know, it was, I think so. I'm trying to think really when it started. It probably started with Full 52, really. Like I had been making my own tricks. So, well, actually, I had that whole thing. I was doing other people's material like everyone does. And I thought, I'm never, like, I would look at other people who created magic and think, oh my God, this is this rarefied. How did people do that? How did they come up with that? I mean, it just baffled me. And I was so in awe of it. So, another thing I should say, actually, my huge influence in something that brought me into magic was being Tam Shepherd. So that was the thing, all the way through sort of kind of primary school, early high school. When I'd fallen away from magic, I would still go into Tam Shepherd's and spend time with Roy Walton. And then when I get back into the sort of whole Blaine era, then I spent a lot of time in there, and that's a major influence. I can't believe I didn't mention that. So yeah, I had got to the point, like I would see people like Roy and stuff and think this is baffling how people's brains work. I mean, I still think that about like this serious card work and things like Roy's things that are very mathematical and stuff. My brain doesn't work like that, and I'm in awe of it. You know, like how does someone figure that out? So I just remember thinking one day, right, I'm going to have a go. I'm going to have a go making up my own track. A concerted effort. That's what I'm going to do today. I've got a free day. I'm going to make up a magic track. I don't remember what it was. It was probably awful. I hope I've written it down somewhere because there might be gold in them there house. You know what I mean? It's good looking back on stuff. But it was. I came up with a thing and it worked, and I was like, cool. And then I started thinking, right, okay, I'll come up with things that I want to do, kind of thing, like So the seed was this one particular track that set me on this journey, and it was. I wish I had it still. I'm sure I do. Right, somewhere in a box, I've got it. But what it was a, so it was a card box that lit up as you took the cards out and sang opera, right? So that was the trick, right? So it was always great because as you took the cards out, the light and it would go, you know, the light would appear as you took the cards out. It looked amazing. Oh. So basically, I got a gift card that when you opened it, it was a woman going, ah, singing opera. And obviously I ripped it open because I was like, how's this work? Right? And it had a little speaker in it and a little switch and stuff. So what I did was I stuck the speaker on the back and I put another piece of card over it. And I soldered on a little LED light that I'd got out of a lighter so that you could squeeze it at the bottom. And as you squeezed it, it would put the light on and make the sound card go. So the whole purpose of this was I was really nervous when I was gigging and I hated approaching tables, and I'd go up and I'd sort of stand on the periphery waiting for a break in conversation that never came. And eventually, you know, I'd be looking at the person that hired me and like, I need to do this now. I need to interrupt. And I'd go, hello, I'm Roddy, I'm the magician. And, you know, so I thought I need a way to get in there. So I would do this. I'd say, hello, you know, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm Roddy and I'm going to show you a bit of magic. And I would bring the cards out and you would always see people going, oh man, as soon as you bring the cards out. And I'd say, look, I know what you're thinking. I'll make this as exciting as possible. And I'd take the cards out and I'd go, oh, and it would be like coming up around or something. Oh, and then I would blow it and I put it in my pocket. So I got a laugh, right? It was like, you got to take the cards out and it's all dramatic. So I moved on from that and I bought a recordable one with a little jack lead in it, and you could put anything in it. So you could have happy birthday and you could have candles, get them to blow it out. Or the one I used most of all was Carmina Burana, that, you know, the omen thing, or Old Spice, depends how old you are. And I would do that, and I put it in my pocket and say, right, okay, so pick a card. And it was great, right? And it worked for me. Nice. So the idea was, once I came up with that, and it was an amalgamation of different ideas I'd seen from, yeah, like all my everyone's tricks are, right? Nothing's original. They're all stolen from somewhere, little bits, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm sure we'll go into that in a minute. So do you remember me saying earlier, I probably don't have anything to say? Jesus. Oh man, I know. Anyway,
this is amazing.
Sorry. So I've just never really broken it down before, but it's funny thinking about it. So yeah, this thing, once I realised that this worked for me and it did what I needed it to do, and like got people to laugh and say that, okay, we're going to watch now. I was like, cool, I can make things to fill the gaps that I need, right? But I didn't see any commercial value in it, really. I didn't know other magicians. That's the other thing. I didn't really, the magic circle thing, I lasted there for a little while and then I was like, sack this. I didn't enjoy it. It was all this sitting down, all these old men saying, okay, so can we have the minutes from the last meeting and the second? And I would sit as this like little 10-year-old going, oh my God, it was awful. When am I going to see some magic? And then the magic would happen. But people would do magic and not really show you how to do it or teach. I thought I was there to learn, like they were going to teach me how to do magic. But all they did was just do magic to each other, and I'd go, how's that work? And they wouldn't tell you, you know. But they had a library, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the thing. I would take the Tarbell books out and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And some magicians would show you stuff and all that, you know. But I get bored of it, stop going. So I didn't know other magicians, and so I was just creating stuff in a vacuum, right? Just making stuff. I didn't know how to make a thing work. Like if I thought, right, I want to do this, so how does that work? I had no sort of frame of reference of like, well, this is how a rising card normally works. So I would just come up with a way of making it work, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of thing happened, and I went to Blackpool. I can't even remember what year it was, but it was fairly late on in the thing. So I went to Blackpool, and I remember I was outside. I smoked at the time. I was outside having a cigarette, and my mate who was with me was saying, you should show. I had my wee bag. It became infamous, this little bag I used to carry about. You should show somebody some of your stuff, like the dealers in there. So, and I was like, nah, nobody's going to be interested. And it happened to be Dave Forrest that was outside having a fag as well. And I thought, I know him. I've talked to him before. And he's Scottish and he seems quite friendly. So I got chatting to him. I said, do you want to see a thing? And he's like, aye, mate, aye, of course. And I showed him the card box and he was like, mate, that's dynamite. It was kind of like, what are you doing with that? And it was kind of like, come here. And that weekend was just a weird weekend because Dave introduced me to Mark Elston. And Mark was just like, what else have you got? And I was bringing all these things out of my bag and he was just kind of going, where's this come from? Where's you get that? And it was weird. He was taking me about the Ruskin, just taking me up to people. Like he was bringing me up like a little sort of performing monkey. You know, Mark mainly, Mark and Dave, but he's like, come here. So, and this is Roddy, show him that thing. And I'd show somebody a thing and they'd go, what? And then he'd go, see, yeah. And then he'd take me to someone else and go, show him that thing. Do you know what I mean? So it was a weird sort of weekend and I met a lot of people. And it was cool because I didn't know who most of them were as well, which was quite embarrassing because I can't remember if that was this year or the following year, but he introduced me to this big tall American guy and he seemed really nice and he showed me a trick. It was all right. I don't remember what it was. And then he said, show him, and I showed him a trick. I can't remember what that was either, but he seemed quite into it and he was really charming and off he went. And then we were sitting in this booth bit in the Ruskin and Mark said, so how does it feel to have fooled Michael Webber? And I said, who's Michael Webber? And then everyone all laughed because I was like, well, who would it laugh at? And they're like, that's Michael Webber. And I was like, what, is he like a magician as well? And then that was a weird, I felt really embarrassed because I realised later on, I was like, oh, I've got one of his books actually. I don't remember the name now, but I didn't know who he was and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but it was good because every time I see Michael now, he's really nice. And he's like, I don't think I did film, let's be honest, but that's just Mark's thing. And he's always really nice and very friendly. And I think it's because I didn't kind of go, oh, when I met him, because I didn't know who he was, right? So we just kind of chatted and stuff. But it was a weird weekend. I got introduced to a lot of people. And that was a turning point for me. I started to think, yeah, maybe I can do something with this, right? Because you have this whole idea that you're going to make a fortune doing it when you first start out, thinking, yeah, this is it. These guys who create tricks, they must live in mansions and drive Bentleys and stuff. But this is not true, people. Nope. It is not true. You make very little from doing it, but yeah, other than the, spiritual wealth, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, that was a turning point. But then the real, like, now I'm just going to do this full time, it came from, so I decided, like, I did things with Dave for a while and I was like, right, I'm not, this isn't really working out.
Yeah, so you just to quickly mention that, so you started off by releasing stuff through Dave Forrest of Full 52, didn't you?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I missed that step out. So that's what happened. We started doing stuff with Dave. So I did Incognito was my first thing, and then we did Flux, and then So On, and something else. Can't remember now. I think that was it. And then I decided
they were all very popular. Like that's when the wider community started to sit up and pay attention to Roddy McGhie.
Yeah, I was really surprised. And I think that was the only time I ever fooled Michael Webber was when it was the year that the FISM was at Blackpool and we were doing So On. And he came over at the stand, he did a stand opposite and I did So On for him. And he just kind of went, he went, okay. And then he went back to his stand and it was about like 15 minutes later, he came back and he was like, I know where the thread goes. That was the thing that was bothering him because the thread vanishes. And he told me and I was like, yeah. And he was like, yes, that he worked it out because that was really bothering him, that one bit. So I was like, yeah, I'm having that, just that little bit. I managed to kind of get him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I would put stuff out with Dave, but then it was taking a long time. Dave, one-man operation, and he's as dynamic as I am, right? So things weren't happening really, and I decided I'd shown a lot of people Little Door. Had been doing that for a long time, and people seemed to love it. And I was doing it at gigs. It was really going down well. It's my most popular track. So I thought I'm going to do this myself, and I worked out that I needed $2,000 to make so many of them, to produce them, and I didn't have $2,000, so I asked a friend. Well, I was at a friend's one night, and I was saying, "Oh, I should do this myself. All I need is $2,000," and he said, "I'll give you $2,000." I said, "Cool. I'll give you, if you give me $2,000, then in 3 months I'll give you $2,500 back." And he's like, "Cool." So that's what I did. I just worked out how to do it. I went to like a printers and I said, "Can you do this?" I mean, it was a long process, and they were really good, the printers, because it was an industrial printers and they didn't normally do stuff like that. And for such a small job, they really went out of their way. They ended up falling out with me in the end and saying, "We don't want to do it anymore," because everything had to be cut so precise. So when you get sent to the cutters, if it was off by a millimeter, then I was like, I can't use those. So there was loads of adjusting they had to do with their machines, and they were making packaging for foods and stuff. So they were doing orders of 100,000, and then they had to reconfigure the machine for like 1,000 of my things, that they were getting a few £100 for. And also all the little holes that are punched out of it kept falling into the machine, and they had to clean it out all the time. So it was a nightmare. Anyway, I decided to do it myself, and I still remember in the printers when he gave me the thing to put in my number with my card, it was for £960 for print, for like paper, and it wasn't my money. I was like, oh my God, I was like, these better sell. But then I worked out the magnets that I bought obviously thousands of magnets. So there's magnets in it. That's a secret. That's what I can say about all my tricks. There's magnets in it, right? Because magnets are magic.
Pretty much most of them, yeah.
Yeah. Well, magnets are magic. They are. So they have to be in tricks. Anyway, so when I bought the magnets, and I looked at how much I got them from China, and then I looked at how much people were selling them on eBay. I said to my wife, "Look, if nobody buys this track, I can make a fortune off these magnets." Do you know what I mean? They're selling for 10 times the price I paid for them. But magnets are more expensive now. Anyway, so I made it, and put it on the Penguin Partner site. You can just go on with Penguin and you can put up a page. I got a friend to film it. I got DVDs made, which I've still got hundreds of them in the garage, because folk are like, I don't want a DVD, I just want the download. So did all that, got it all done, and I put it up on their site. And then, a bit cheeky, I kind of manipulated the Magic Cafe a little bit. So don't do this, kids. It's a bit bad. But I made a trailer, right, that was just awful. But no, it wasn't awful, but I thought it was cool. If you go on, you'll probably see it if you look up Little Door, or if you go on the cafe and look for Little Door. It's the very first thing. So what it is it's a kind of atmospheric music, and it's a pen, like a super close up, like that close, of a pen drawing the door on a box, right? So what I did was I got my phone and I sellotaped a pen in front of the camera and just drew it like that with a lamp on to make it look cool, right? It looked cool, and I put atmospheric music over it every time there's a line. There was a little fade and a quote from magicians that I knew that went away too quickly before you could read it. It's kind of like you're going, what? So you'd have to pause it or go back and watch it again. This is terrible. So anyway, I made this trailer that showed none of the track, but was all like coming soon and all that. And people in the cafe just lost their shit, and they were like, what the hell is this? Nowadays people, and they got all annoyed. Before I knew it, there was like 6 pages of people complaining about this, right?
That's great.
So then what I did was I just set my phone up. I was at work one night, and I just did a performance straight to the camera, and I posted that. I said, look, I'm really sorry. I was meant to get people interested. I didn't want to annoy anyone. Here's the track, and there's just straight to camera. And of course they were like, oh, well, that's just, straight to camera. That's what we want. That's perfect. Great track. And it got a lot of traction. So the ones I think I put 100 up on with Penguin, because what they used to do, I think they do the same thing. You can just go on with your product, and they will host your page. You send your product to their warehouse and they will ship it out to people when they make orders, and they take a percentage for that, which is, I'm not sure what it is now, but at the time when I started doing that, they took 30% of the retail for doing that, which was great. I think it's less than that now because of Little Door, unfortunately. So I put 100 up and they were gone like that day. And I was like, man. So what I was doing is I was coming, at the time I was working as like a mental health, community mental health worker. So I was doing a lot of shifts. So I'd come home from like a night shift and I'd go into the garage and I'd sit for 6 hours making Little Doors. And then I would feed the kids and then I'd go to work again. And it was crazy. I couldn't make them fast enough. And they were selling and selling, and it got to #1 in their chart. So I don't think they'd had a partner thing go to #1 before. So anyway, it sold really well, and it got to the point where, you know, I had this kind of relationship with them now. So jumping forward a little bit, I was selling Little Door with Dave on his stand, and it was going really well. And I had interest like from Murphy's and stuff like that. Funnily enough, actually, I approached Murphy's with Little Door when I was trying to get it going, and they kind of knocked it back. First of all, I tried to do it with Paul Harris, so I took it to Paul Harris, and they were really interested, and it was going really well. But they wanted to make too many changes to it, and yeah, I won't go into it, but that didn't work out.
It actually feels, Little Door feels like a Paul Harris style of trick, you know, like that moment of astonishment that he talks about. It's kind of like, it has that kind of feel of, hang on, did I just see what I think I saw?
Yeah, he's definitely a big influence on me. You know, I was getting, at the time when I was getting back into magic, I had a friend that would photocopy books. Don't do this, it's terrible as well. He had money, so he would buy books, and sometimes he'd photocopy bits of it out for me, or we would both buy a book and swap them and stuff like that. And the ones that always caught my eye were the Paul Harris things with all cartoons in it and the really wacky stuff. So definitely huge influence, definitely Paul Harris. So I took it to him first because I thought he's got a wider reach. I'm going to sell a lot of these. And also, I mean, I was aware that when Paul Harris put things out, most of the time the Paul Harris presents tricks, people don't remember the creator. They say, oh, it's a Paul Harris trick, so it presents such and such as whatever. But I wasn't bothered by that, you know, I wasn't bothered. But it didn't work out with them. I approached Murphy's, they were wanting, they were like, nah, they tried to give me a tiny percentage, and yeah, that didn't work either. So then I did it myself, did it with Dave. And then Penguin came along, Sean Dunn came along and had a chat with me. And he said, look, you know, this is, how about we take over making these, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Because he knew it wasn't sustainable for me. I couldn't make them quick enough. So we had this kind of arrangement where someone else would make them and I would get a lower percentage, but it was fine. I could just sit back. But then they couldn't get anyone else to make them, so I ended up making them as well. It was really weird. It was a weird thing. I was getting paid for every unit I made, but then I was also getting a royalty as well, and it was just an odd kind of thing. But anyway, man, I am so rambling today. I feel sorry for people watching this.
I'm finding this absolutely fascinating.
I find it's a shame for the people watching this. I'll try and be more interesting. This is a sign. We'll get over this bit quickly. So yeah, I was talking to Sean, and we were having a kind of messenger chat when I was at work one night. It was just, I was having a real hard night, and I was chatting. I said, man, I would love to do what you do. You have the dream job. I'd love to work with you guys. And he's like, well, do you know what? Let's try and work something out, you know. He said, pitch yourself to us. If you want a job, then pitch yourself. So I went away and I wrote a pitch saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I can bring to the table. And that's it. They gave me a job, basically, of like, if you, so we kind of started out with, he was like, right, if you produce 6 tricks in a year, we'll employ you for a year. you produce 6 tricks, we'll pay you a salary every month and we'll give you a royalty. And it was great. It was a fantastic deal, because really what Sean said was, I want just to give you the freedom to create, because I think if you've got the freedom to create, you're going to come up with great stuff and it'll be good for both of us. So as soon as they employed me, I said, here's 6, because I had loads by then. I just gave them 6. And I thought, yes, that's my work done for the year. It wasn't really, right? But then they kind of discovered down the line that they couldn't really manufacture my stuff, because nobody would make it. My stuff is kind of, although a lot of the times it's really simple, it's not simple to make, you know. And people don't realise that about magic tricks when they buy them. They treat them like consumer products, but they're all handmade most of the time, you know. And for someone to sit down and take half an hour to make one thing, you know, you've got to add the cost of that half an hour of that person's time, plus the materials, plus, you know, the inspiration behind it and the value you get from it when you perform it. So it's really hard to price magic, you know. You get paid as a manufacturer and a creator. You get paid as like a manufacturer, not as an artist, you know, even though, oh, that's that, but I'm claiming everything I make is a work of art, but it is, you know, it is well, it's handmade, handcrafted. Actually, that was advice I got from Mark Elston when I was putting Little Door out. I showed him the cover I'd done, and it's, you know, each unit is handmade, and he's like, no, mate, handcrafted. Handmade is like £1, handcrafted is a tenner. He's like, you know. So anyway, what was I talking about? Pure rambling, man. You should interrupt more often.
I love it. So you went to Penguin and they offered you a job. You gave them 6 tricks, but they couldn't actually produce them.
Yeah. So it came down to like, right, okay, in the second year, right, you need to make them for us. And I'm slow at making gimmicks, you know, because the way I look at it is, if someone buys one of my tricks, it's the only one they're ever going to see, so it has to be perfect. You know, they can't compare it to another one and go, oh, mine's off a little bit. It has to be, everyone has to be perfect, right? So there was a lot of, at one point, there was someone else making Little Doors, and there was a lot of quality control issues. Like, I was selling at Blackpool one year, and I was checking everyone as I took it out, and so many of them were badly made, and I just spin them. And but now they make them better than I do, because they have Penguin have this big studio of people that sit and make gimmicks that are the best, man. Some of the, like, when I was over there a few weeks ago, I was looking at the Little Doors, and I was all like, God, they're better than mine. They're so good. So yeah, so I started making them. That wasn't really working out. They found other roles for me. I was like, here's another 6 tricks, and then we went into the 3rd year, and I was like, here's another 6, and we've just kind of carried on together. And sometimes when they get submissions, they send them to me, and I can't say I fix them, but I say, right, okay, what you need to do is this, this, and this, or you need to change that, or here's a presentation for it, or whatever. So I love doing that as well. But we're moving into a kind of different phase now. So now I'm going to be doing, like yourself, more sort of social media stuff now, hopefully. So you'll be seeing lots of daft little videos of me doing silly things, you know, doing mad tricks. So
that's on top of the tricks that you create for them and everything else.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I'm going to be the new Rick Lax. No. Are
you going to be sitting in a cafe with headphones?
No, I'm going to be the new Gibrisi. That's going to be my thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's where I am now. Still with Penguin, and still kind of slogging away and doing bits and bobs. And yeah, I mean, it's good. It is good.
And do you still gig as well?
Yeah, not for ages though. Not for ages. I am terrible with the gigging thing. I convinced my wife when I gave up my job to go and work with Penguin. Oh no, she's going to watch this. Anyway, she'll be bored, mate. She'll be bored by now, right? She's clearly, like most people, have left by now, so she certainly will have. So when I left my job, I said to her, look, I can supplement that income by gigging, because I'll be free. I'll be like, my days are free, my evenings are free, so I can do more gigs. But I didn't chase them. I really didn't, because I have this, it's weird, I have this whole thing. It's probably the same with every magician. When you're out of the loop for a while, I get really nervous again, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. But the second I'm there, the second I do the first trick, I'm in it again, and I'm like, oh, why have I been away from this so long? I love it. Because for years I was super nervous performing. I always had that thing of being a really shy kid that was desperate to show off. Kind of weird, I was quiet, but I was constantly like, da, 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 look at me, here's a show, and like I played in a band for years, and even when we were, which was most of the time, playing to like 2 people, a man and his dog in a pub, I would be destroyed with anxiety before going on. But then I'd come off stage like that, like a rock god, because as soon as you go in there and you do it, the adrenaline goes, and you're like, yes. So yeah, I didn't really chase gigs. My website is terrible. I made it years ago. I can't even remember what I made it with. Something really basic that I don't know how to change now. But I don't get gigs from the websites. Like I do a gig and then people take my card, and so it's word of mouth. So because of that, there's a few and far between, or they have been recently, obviously with COVID. But for a while I had a wee bit ticking over, I was doing fairly regular, but I definitely am looking to get more into it now, now that things are picking back up again. But I don't do a lot, it's like a couple a month at most. But I had a period where I was doing quite a lot, but I don't chase it. I need to chase it because it's silly. It's very silly. Just now I'm working, I'm doing like 20 hours a week vaccinating people. So I've been doing that since February because I thought, as well as the penguin stuff, they were looking for vaccinators, and I thought, right, I want to get back out of gigging. Right, if that was part of the selfish part of it. It was like, the quicker I can jag people, we get back to normal and I can get out and do gigs, right? But also I thought I just want to do my part as well, and I had training and stuff. So I started doing that, but it's crazy. I mean, I can be sitting in there and thinking, well, for the 20 hours, like I could have been doing a gig for 2 hours and earned more than I would have in like 2 weeks vaccinating. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm quite happy to just go along and do that because I can amble along doing it, and then I can concentrate on magic at home and stuff like that. But I do need to chase the gigging more,
Mm-hmm.
But I can't even remember what your question was now.
Well, here's a question for you, Roddy. So most people that create magic, they create a trick, they pitch it to Murphy's, Penguin, whoever, who then say yes or no, and eventually it comes to market, or somebody like a David Jonathan might self-produce, whatever it may be. Yeah. That tends to be what happens. You're very much in the same camp as somebody like Lloyd Barnes, where you're kind of employed by a company to go and create magic for them. So do you ever worry that, like, I mean, I suppose this is a creativity question. Do you ever kind of think, okay, my job is kind of dependent on me creating magic. What happens if the well runs dry? Or what happens, because all of your tricks have been so well received and they're so unique. Do you ever worry about, oh, what happens if the next one's not at that level? What happens if, I'm never going to reach the levels of Little Door or whatever again? And so doubting yourself, is that a thing, or is that?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like Little Door's been my most successful thing. It was Flux, and then Little Door's so everything since then. I'm still on my difficult second album. I've not managed to surpass it. No matter what I put out, someone usually on the cafe will say, it's good, but it's no Little Door. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, damn you. Damn you, Little Door. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern. As thankfully, I'm at a stage now with Penguin where I've just flooded them with too much stuff that they're like, fine, that's enough. Now you can just go on camera and show off now and do tricks to people and do stuff. So the burden is not on me to create now. It's a weird thing, right? When Sean gave me the opportunity to like leave my really stressful job, and it was weird. I mean, I'd done social care and healthcare work for decades. And it wasn't until, I remember the week that I left the job, I felt it was the first time I'd breathed out in like 20 years. I was like, God, I thought I hadn't realised how stressful the work was that I was doing, because you just do it, you do your job, and it's what you do. And I thought, this is what I've always done and I'm good at it. But as soon as the burden was off, I was like, what the hell was that? Oh,
sound like a football match starting.
Yeah, it's my daughter's iPad. God, right, I should have muted that. So yeah, I mean, God, I don't know what that is. How do I switch this off? Slap your old man. How do you switch it off? So yeah, leaving the job was great, and I thought, right, now I'm just going to be bursting with ideas. But that wasn't the case, not at all. For a long time, I was like, oh my God. But even though that first year I could sit back, I'd given the 6 that they asked for, but I'm thinking now this is what I'm supposed to be doing, is creating, so the pressure was on, right? And I couldn't do it. And what I realised when I got into it for a while was it was the stress that was helping me create magic, right? So when I was at work and I was having a hard time, I was thinking about magic tricks to distract myself, right? To kind of deal with, or times when I was on night shifts to relieve boredom, I'd think about magic and stuff like that. But it was an escape. Like inventing magic tricks was an escape, really, from what I was in. And then I was in a position where I was like, sipping out a coconut and all that, on a sun lounge. I'm going, this is the life. And there was no impetus for me to create, really, because I was like, right, well, I'm free. I've given them this for a year. It's hard to describe, but the stress wasn't there, and I wasn't really coming up with stuff. I was creating a different kind of stress, because I was like, oh no, I need to come up with magic. So you need to give yourself that sort of space to say, right, now I'm going to create, and like if it comes, it comes, right? I know, like Ben was talking about this pressure that you put on yourself, like Ben Williams, that you go, oh, I need to bang it out, and people are expecting this of me. But if you just let it come, it's like, I know you're probably going to ask me at some point how I come up with ideas, and I'd love to be able to tell you. We'll get to that. It's who knows, right? It just comes to you. Sometimes you just get a wee, and you go, oh, but you've got to give yourself that space where that's going to happen, right? But you've got to feed things into that and make it happen as well. But yeah, definitely the pressure to create is there. But thankfully, now, so Noel Qualter is is a good friend of mine, and Noel is a never-ending font of inspiration for me. He's definitely like this is a whole magic bromance. He is definitely my muse, and my wife's always rolling her eyes, talking about this. But Noel is fantastic, and he will just say something, just an off-the-cuff thing, like a phrase. Think about this. What if blah blah blah, and it'll be something really obscure, and it just, for me, it's a spark, and that's what I need. Sometimes I need the spark, and I will create something that is completely different from what he proposed at the start. But you need that. So that's great when collaborating, is you need the little spark. And where you find that spark's up to you, So on that basis, I always kind of think, as long as I'm friends with Noel, I'll be okay. I'll be able to come up with ideas, because he feels the fire all the time. So yeah.
You do need somebody like that. You do need somebody that you can bounce ideas off, don't you? I mean, when you're creating, it's really important to have that somebody there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one, really. I mean, I know I'm probably not going to say anything different from other magicians that have been on this when they talk about creativity. I don't think anybody really knows where it comes from, right? I can point to particular examples of, that's where that idea came from, or like Frankendoe was a pretty easy one, right? I always liked the little hand thing. Always did little hand. It suits my style, right? And I was clearing up my daughter's room. It's like a never-ending task. This was years ago, and I'm still doing it. I don't think I finished tidying it. So she's so like me, honestly. I used to have to do parkour to get in my bed, when I was a kid. It's like there's so much stuff everywhere. And then my mum would come in and clean it, and I'd be like, oh, this is great, for about 5 minutes, and I'd be like, yeah. Anyway, she's the same. So
sounds like Ryland as well, to be honest.
Yeah, this is the product of a fertile mind. That's what it is. It's like messy room, messy brain. That's not a phrase. It's a phrase I just made up. But anyway, I'm shoveling stuff into a bag, right? And I look into the bag, and there is. So she had this sort of like little posable toy, like a little rubber guy with a smiley face, right? But you can bend its arms and stuff. And it's blue, and it's in the bottom of the bag, but stuck to the arm is a big chunk of blue Play-Doh that's all gone hard, right? So all I see when I look in is like, geez, this thing looks like it's got this horrible tumour thing. I thought it melted or something. I lifted it out, and I'm looking at it, and it's like a ball of Play-Doh with a hand coming out of it. And I was like, yes. The idea just came there. It looks like the hand's coming out of the Play-Doh. So got a pair of scissors, snipped the hand off, super glued it to a thimble, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then the rest just kind of came from there. So sometimes it is something like that, and it's like, and so my daughter is a great inspiration, not only accidentally, but she gives me good ideas as well. Like the one, what was it called? The one, going fishing, right? That was another thing. She'd been drawn on a glass with a dry white pen, and I was doing the dishes and I was washing the glass, and I saw the ink floating off the glass, and I was like, whoa, that's trippy, because I hadn't seen it before, right? And then that just came from there. Like, what that could be a trick. How could that be a trick? And then I remember I saw stuff on the internet of people pouring it on a plate and the little man floats off. But honest to God, I hadn't seen this when I came up with going fishing. That was just like from washing a glass and going, that's good. So sometimes an idea just strikes you, right? Sometimes it's something that someone says, or it's just something that happens. And for me, I was kind of like, this is a good thing about being friends with Noel. A lot of good things about being friends with Noel. He's going to get a lot of people wanting to be friends with him after this, but like I'll say, like if I'm talking about that example with the Frankendoe thing, and I'm like, so that was there, that was all there. Anyone would have spotted that and went, but he's like, no, your mind was in a particular way that when you saw that, no one else would have noticed that, but you noticed it and went, oh, there's a magic trick in there, you know. So your mind has to be in that mode. But I don't know if my mind's like, I don't set my mind to like, okay, I'm going to invent a trick. Sometimes it just kind of happens by accident, but you need to, I mean, there's that whole thing of like garbage in, garbage out, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to put good stuff in there if you want to get good stuff out. And it's like, hold on a minute. Right. So this is a great book. It's probably backwards. Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon, right? Really, really good. I actually looked this out this morning because I was like, right, he's going to ask me stuff and I'll have to sound clever. So I have a look at it. And I didn't have time to read it. But it's great, right? It's really, really good. And the title says it all, Steal Like an Artist, right? Because that's what we do. We all steal. It's like, this is a controversial thing to say, but if somebody says to me, like, where'd you get your ideas from? I'm like, well, I just steal them, right? Which is controversial in the magic world, right? But that, it's not just stealing them. What you do is you take little bits from everywhere, right? So that's how you make something. Like, because people say, oh, your stuff's really original, but it's not, right? There's nothing new under this sun. There's nothing's original. Everything comes from somewhere else, right? So you take your inspiration from the things you love, and like most artists, they start by copying the people that they love, right? And then you find your own voice, you find your own way, you change it a little bit, you add a little bit, but we all start copying someone else, you know what I mean? It's like no one really, I'm sure there are some people, but few people can like create in a vacuum. You surround yourself by things that influence you and that you like. And that's the thing. Make sure it can come from like movies or books or like conversations you've heard, or like, so there's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook. I've never met him. He's just someone that friended me years ago. What's his name? Steve Jury. I've never met him. But on Facebook, he puts up, the stuff he always puts up are little surreal pictures or just interesting pictures, right? And sometimes it can be some Escher-esque type thing or an optical illusion. And when I flick through, I always see his stuff, and it's really inspirational. Like, because you look at it, it makes you think. You know what I mean? You go, oh, that's the thing. And sometimes you'll get an idea that'll take you off. It might be usually what happens if I see something that sparks an idea. I end up going down a path, and where I arrive has no resemblance to where I started.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you think, I wonder if I could do this, and you know, you go off on a path. But it's really hard. It's really hard to explain, because I mean, I'd love to know if I knew the recipe for like banging out an awesome magic trick. I'd be doing it every day. You know, it'd be like, right, this is what I need to do. Put on the lucky hat, get the incense burning, and then just go for it.
But the difference with a lot of your stuff is, and I mentioned this at the very beginning of the interview, it is very different. Like, you know, you see creators that are bringing out their own version of any card at any number, for example, and it is totally different. Might be a better method, for example, but it's still rooted to a similar plot. You know, you look at something like Little Door. I've never seen anything like that before. You look at something like the one with the pen where it goes through the warp hole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is just mental. That's just mental. It's like there's nothing else that even you can't say, oh, this is this genre of trick. It's just completely different. Even like some of your newer stuff, you could puzzle, for example. You could say, well, that's a torn and restored card, but it's not. The whole concept of using a puzzle that you're showing that everybody knows and then it restores. Even your latest one, Coinception. I've never seen a piece by piece appearance of a coin before.
Yeah.
It's like you go in a completely different direction to anyone else.
Well, you know, I'm kind of going in the same direction. I'm just not really watching where I'm going. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, like the coin thing, for example, is, you know, you see people going and they produce a coin. Oh, if only I had a coin there, that would have been so much more impressive. But instead of just miming it, now I'm looking for one that I can make it go. So yeah, you know, they produce a coin, and so it's not a particularly weird thing to say, well, how could I do that, but in a different way, right? So the original idea of that was to, it's so bizarre. Sometimes, like I say, the original idea is usually, quite often what happens, what I do is I think of the idea, I work it out and I build it in my head first. And then once I build it in my head and I think, yeah, that'll work, I'll rush off and try and find all the materials and then make it. And quite often it does work, right, which is great. But often, you know, the laws of physics get in the way. And the thing that when I make the thing, I'm like, God damn it. I mean, I had this great idea. Well, I thought it was a great idea. I remember years ago that just involved just a ton of magnets, right? And it was like now like these color blindness pictures where it's all the dots and you have to see the number in it and stuff like that. So I had this whole thing in a card with loads of little coloured stickers, but they were all like magnets that were on thread that were stretched across it, and like the magnets that were on another card had opposing polarity, so that when I dropped it, they'd flip round and change and reveal an image. That sounds cool, doesn't it? That doesn't work. I mean, you put all those magnets next to each other and you try and move the thing, they all end up in a big ball of thread, and it just doesn't work, right? I have kind of found a way to almost make it work, but man, it would probably cost you about £100 for the gimmick. It takes so long to make, right? So you find a simple way of doing it. But like I say, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I can't remember what my point was again. I'm doing this a lot, am I? Where were we getting again? I can't even remember.
Your ideas are just so far out there.
Oh, right. Yeah. So that's what you're saying. Yeah. So, so the original idea for the Coinception thing was I would produce a clear coin, you know, like Jared Manley's thing, you know, those clear coins, but like it would be a clear coin that was hollow, that I would have a little tube and I would feed mercury into it, so it would fill up and then switch for a real coin, right? So you produced a clear coin, that becomes metallic, right? And then you switch for a real coin. I mean, that would look cool, right? But that is wildly impractical, and I can't make that. I don't have the facilities to make that. So it's like, right, I've got a jeweler's saw, I'll make it like this instead. Do you know what I mean? So it's things like that. Sometimes you have an idea that you think, right, I can't make that thing. So what have I got in the kitchen drawer that I can make it out of? And that was the problem quite often when I went to Penguin and they were looking at manufacturing my stuff. They're like, so where did we get that thing? And I was like, I don't know, I got it out of a McDonald's toy. Do you know what I mean? I smashed it and there was this wee widget in it that I thought, that'll do. And they're like, where did you source it? You know what I mean? Or like, I don't know, I found it on the drive. You know, it was on the pavement. I don't know what it is. It's a kind of weird looking screw, so I glued it onto a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I know that people, like I say, people go, oh, that's original. But it's like so for example, I have a trick that I put out myself for a little while that I sell at lectures and stuff, and I love it. I really like this trick. It's called We Make Any Sandwich, right? And the idea is that you get people in the audience to, you tell them a story about how you went to this place and you had the most delicious sandwich you've ever had, right? And it's this place and you can choose the ingredients and all that. So I'll not go into the whole pattern of it. So at the end of it, so people all choose ingredients, like the wildest ingredients for a sandwich, or weird stuff, right? But you've had this envelope the whole time, and when you take it out, you see, and here, it was so delicious, I took a photo of it, and when you take the photo out, it's just the photo of a crust on the plate the sandwich has been eaten, you know, and you go, but it's all, obviously I'm not going to take it, I had to find out it was delicious before I took a photo. I wasn't going, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but you show them that on the back of it, stapled to it, is a receipt, and it has the ingredients that they chose, right? And you can tear the receipt off and let them keep it. So I came up with that because I sat down one day and said, right, I'm going to come up with my own sandwich trick, right? Like using cards, I was thinking, I'll come up with a sandwich routine. How can I make a gimmick to make that? Because that's a classic and I'm going to work on it. And then about half an hour later, I was like, okay, I was taking photos of a crust on a plate, you know, because I was like, that's where I ended up. But it started off as a card trick. So, and it ended up as a like confabulation with a mystery sandwich. So that you just have to, sometimes you have to look at a thing and say, all right, okay, what does this mean to everyone else? And sometimes using a plain words on it, you go, oh, right, okay, so yeah, I don't know, I'm rambling again.
No, you're not. This is, I hope people are listening to this, because this is a masterclass in creativity. It really is.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that. It's just, it's honestly, it's such a difficult thing to describe how you do it, because it's not really a how-to. I don't say, right, that now's making a magic trick time, right? I mean, that can work, but that's not how it works for me. So it's just a process that kind of happens while life happens, right? While you're doing other things, sometimes you get a thing pops into your head. But like I say, having good inspiration, you know, there's this whole thing of, and I think it's in that book, or it might have been another one, and it was something to do with, oh God, no, I need to look at it. It's something to do with, like, if you take your 5 closest friends and you add up your accumulated sort of wealth, and then you'll be the average of all that. Is that the point I'm making? Is you basically surround yourself with good people and good things, you know, so if their creative value are high, then that'll bring you up. And it's hard to describe, it really is. I mean, I know that, funnily enough, that from watching Ben's the other day, and he was talking about, you know, give yourself the tools to create it, right? So read a lot of other magic books and give yourself the tools so that you know what to do. I kind of agree with that, but also I kind of disagree with that as well, right? It's weird that I'm torn both ways, and I think I've got the luxury of doing that because I spent a long time sort of learning the tools, you know, learning other people's tricks. So now I can disregard them kind of thing. But I kind of think if you spend all your time immersing yourself in magic and all you read is magic books, then you're just doomed to create what's been before, right? If you know, you'll read a thing and then you'll go to have an idea. This was my problem when I started working with Penguin, was that I would subconsciously gatekeep ideas. So whereas before anything was like free game, right? I could go any direction I wanted. If I wanted to make a, you know, I don't know, a magical birdhouse or a vanishing withers, or you know, I don't know. Like if I wanted to, I could, right? And the method didn't have to be practical. It could be as elaborate as possible, like as long as I could get away with it when I was doing close up. Or if I was doing stuff for a TV thing, then it only had to work once or twice. It was fine. Didn't matter if it all fell apart and it looked terrible from the back. But when I went on with Penguin, I was under pressure to create things that were commercial. And also, magicians want to buy self-working miracles, right? They don't. Yeah. They buy a trick, and I don't mean magicians in general, but a lot of them do. You know, they buy it and they go, "Oh, it's only magnets," and you're like, "What? Did you think you were buying magic? Like actual magic?" Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you have to actually do the thing. Yeah, you have to do the thing. Oh, you know, I have to do a double lift. Oh. So they want things that are just amazing, eye-popping visual stuff that just works itself, right? So that's what the fact is 95% of people that buy magic are amateurs, you know, and that's not a bad thing, right? They're not. I'm not being disparaging, because I still think of myself as an amateur, right? And it's only that little small percentage of the proper workers doing it all the time. And you want to produce things that workers are going to use, right? I do it because it's a pride thing. It's like the whole point of doing this is to have some kind of legacy, I suppose. I'd like to think that in a year's time, people, what would be lovely would be years and years from now, some old boy sitting at Blackpool saying, I remember sitting here one day with Roddy McGhie and Craig Petty and Noel Coulter, and all these little kids have been enthralled. You know, like when you hear guys talking about sitting with the professor and all that, right? Mm-hmm. That would be great. Like Roy would tell us stories of sitting with Ramsey and like Di Vernon and and I remember such and such this and Alex Elmsley, who he was good friends with, and we were enthralled by these stories as kids. We were just like, oh my, these guys are legends. So that's what I want from this, right? From years from now, is like people who go, you know, I met him once, he was lovely. You know what I mean? But anyway, what was the point? I've gone off again, haven't I?
I'm loving this. I really am.
We were talking about, right, so yeah, surrounding yourself with like getting your inspiration from other places. Was that what I was talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're just going to copy stuff, I think I'm jumping back and I'm missing a point. You're going to edit this, I hope. Just kind of be me like this.
Probably not.
Like Max Headroom, just sitting like all these little. So try and keep my head as still as possible, and then you can just cut all this out. Right? So yeah, I think that whole thing, if you just like read magic stuff, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to do the same thing over and over. I'm totally jumping back, so I definitely moved on to another point. Oh my God. Ask me something else.
Well, here's a question. I'm loving this. This is my favorite interview of all time ever. Here's a question. When do you say no? And what I mean by that, is there ever a trick that is ever a concept of something that you've thought that would be awesome, and you've tried and you've tried and you've tried and you've just ended up going, no, it's just not going to work? Or do you continue working on it? Like you mentioned about Coinception, started off with an absolutely bonkers idea of a clear coin with mercury being dumped into it, and then that obviously eventually led to Coinception. That would be cool. I think you should carry on working on that. But is there ever an idea that you had that's just completely off the wall and you just had to go, you know what, it ain't going to happen? Or do you continually have it in the back of your mind?
Probably. Actually, you saying that has taken me back to the point I was at. Yeah, that whole thing when I was working for Penguin. I'll come back to that in a second. I remember saying. So, what I was doing was I was stopping ideas coming in that weren't commercial, right? I'd have an idea and I go, no, and then I'd be like, no, it needs to be another I knew any card at any number or whatever. Do you know what I mean? If I came up with a method that was impractical and difficult to make, no, I need to make 2,000 of those. So sack all that. Do you know what I mean? And I was gatekeeping. I was stopping myself having ideas. And once I realised that, then that I was able to open the door and say, right, now I'm just going to think of whatever. And if it's commercial, good. If it's not, doesn't matter. If it's something I can use, there's no bad ideas, right? There are lots of bad ideas, but when you're trying to create a magic trick, then just write everything down. Honestly, I have screeds and screeds of absolute nonsense that when I look at it, I'm like, oh my, what was I on? Do you know what I mean? I've got things and little drawings as well, and I look at them and I have no idea what that is, But maybe one day I'll look at it and go, that could be good. Like I had that with Puzzled. There was a method I'd drawn it in my little notebook. It was just from the chocolate puzzle, seeing it all over Facebook and stuff like that. It was getting big, and like the Freer thing. Well, it's not really the Freer thing. The chocolate thing was different, but similar. And seeing it, and I thought, well, there's a trick in that, and I messed about with it. But the method I was using was too similar to something that was out there already. I think it was probably Tool, the David Stone thing, something similar to that. When that came out, I was like, I can't use that anymore. I was dumping them out of a card box, and so I dropped it because that happens quite often. And this will happen to everyone who tries to create magic, is that they're not, like I say, nothing's original. So you'll often come across something that you've invested so much time in, and it's just soul destroying when you find out it's already been created and better. Like Blake Voigt's thing with the corner, with the two, you rip it off and restore it. What's that called again?
Reformation, I think.
Reformation. I was so pleased when I thought I'd come up with that. The way I was doing it was with the corner the other way around, because I thought if you're going to restore it, you want to turn it around and restore it, right? And then I saw Reformation and I was just like, man, I spent so long making those cars. Like I made loads of them. I made them for myself. I think I made about 20 of them with the corners the other way around. And I was trying it at gigs and it was getting good reactions. And I thought, there's maybe something in this. And then I saw that and I was like, yeah, there is. And someone else thought of it first. So that's what happens. It happens all the time. But I don't think there's anything wrong with like looking at stuff that's out there and thinking, I'm going to do my twist on this. How can I approach this differently? Because you've got a starting point there. Everyone, like I say, everyone starts copying someone else. You emulate your heroes until you become your own hero. Until you become your own. You get your own voice, and it just happens. It just happens as you're going along. But other tricks that I've just said no to, I don't think so. I think sometimes you get to a point where a trick, like I was saying earlier, the thing with all the magnets and the colour chart thing, I was like, once I made the gimmick and it didn't work at all, I was like, I threw it into a drawer. And then years later, I looked at it again and I was like, well, why didn't it work? And is there a way of making that work that way? Turns out probably not. But it was good to approach it again. And I think that probably led to something else. Like I tried to engineer some sort of mechanic that would make that idea work and thought, well, no, I could use that with this other dead idea. Do you know what I mean? So it's good to always have something you can write something down. I mean, it's good nowadays you've got your phone and you can just doodle something on your phone or write something in your notes. But it's always good to have that on you. Like if your job is to be creative almost, then you got to fill the tank all the time. And if that, it's like, my wife doesn't get that if I'm sitting on my arse watching the telly and I'm like, filling the tank, I'm working here. No, she's right, I'm not, I'm just watching TV. But that's part of it. Sometimes your ideas come from watching movies and reading books, and it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell when you've got someone that works so hard at such a stressful job like my wife does, to say, what did you do today? Well, I watched about Netflix, but it's all research. So, it's true, though. It's true.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's just like, if we'll just sit and play the piano, and like, not that I'm good at the piano, I'm terrible, but you know, just sort of lose yourself in that for a while and just let stuff kind of drift about. In fact, the best place to shower, right? See, if you're not having ideas in the shower, you're doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the place. I don't mean that to sound the way it sounds. Not those kind of ideas, but yeah, that's that's the best place for me. Standing in the shower until like you can't see it, so sleeping. I'm just standing there thinking of tricks. Like sometimes it's the place that, like, other people, they'll just sing in the shower and stuff like that. I'll sing as well, terribly, but that is a good place. And also when I'm going to sleep at night, or always trying to go to sleep, because that's a good thing. And Noel does this, and this is good advice from Noel as well. If you've got a problem that you're working on, you're like, right, I've got a trick where a thing ends up inside the box, but I've got no way of getting thing in the box without coming near it. So how am I going to work that out? So you set your brain that problem and go to sleep, right? Think about it a little bit as you're falling asleep. And quite often when you get up in the morning, your brain's like, ah, morning, I worked it out. So your subconscious is always working on stuff. So sometimes, you know, just throw that little idea in there, go. And every now and again, when you're cooking dinner or you're like having the shower, it'll drift back in. Oh, that thing I was thinking of. Because I'm of the opinion that your subconscious is working away on it in the meantime. So that's why you get this whole, oh, I can't think of how to make this work. I'll come back to it. And then later on, you come back to it again. I'm still thinking about it. And then maybe the third time you come back to it, it's like a light bulb moment. And it's not a light bulb switching on. All that time, your brain's been working it out because it's been gathering all this material subconsciously and putting it together. Maybe a little thing you saw here, a little thing you heard there, and it glues it all together. And then you get the light bulb moment because it's done all. The brain's been doing its work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to describe. It's very subconscious, and I don't think it can be forced. Maybe it can, you know, but I've not found a way of doing it. I wish I knew how to do it. You know, I'd love to be able to just go, here's my new idea for today. But
well, I think now I know why a lot of magicians aren't creative. Because based on what you said there, getting the ideas in the shower, based on being at Blackpool, I don't think many magicians shower. So, I mean, that's probably what it is. They need to better hygiene, more creativity. There you go. You heard it here first, right?
I deliberately threw that in there for that reason. I was like subtle. And do you know what else really helps me think ideas? Deodorant. It really does.
And breath mints, right? Well, funny. Are you going to be at Blackpool, by the way, Roddy?
Yes, I am. Yeah, slogging it on the Penguin stand again. It's like, honestly, it's genuinely, of all the work that I've done over the years, and I've done some mad jobs. That is the hardest, man. The Blackpool stand, it is exhausting.
I did it for years on the World Magic Shop stand. Never again. I mean, I've got stuff coming out this year, and I've said no to everyone. Because
I've not seen the convention in years. I've not seen an act or a lecture or anything. You know, just
the problem I have is the person that comes 25 times during the course of the convention, wanting to see the same trick and then going, I'll come back and I'll see it later. I'll come back and see it later. I get to the point on about day 2 where I just want to headbutt them off the balcony. So I for everybody's own safety, I need to not be on a stand, because it would probably be bad for.
It's weird. It's just like it's the repetition. You're doing the same thing over and over, and you've got to be on because you're selling it. You're like, oh, you're performing it, right? Just like it's basically like an 8-hour gig every day and on 2 hours sleep, right? So it's like you're doing this 8-hour gig, and then you get some terrible food somewhere, unless it's fish and chips. Fish and chips at Blackpool is the best. It really is brilliant. Anyway, you go out for something to eat, you spend the night drinking and doing magic to people, and then, you know, catching up with people you haven't seen in years, and then you drop into your bed at like 4 a.m, whatever, on a good night. You're back on the stand at 9 and you're on for another 8-hour gig. So it's slightly bending over the whole time. Oh. So it's really grueling, and it's weird because for years I would see people behind the stand, and these were rarefied individuals. You'd be like, oh my God, being behind the stand was an exalted position. It was like, you couldn't imagine, like, oh, I get to be behind the stand and play with the toys. Do you know what I mean? It was like cool. Although I remember, I remember one year at Blackpool, seeing Henry Evans, right? Man, that guy can sell. Right? Henry Evans behind his stand, he's on his little stand and he's walking away. Okay, we have this. And I remember thinking to myself, he's like a FISM winner and like really famous, and you know, and he's just behind this little table selling magic tricks. And I kind of thought, oh, that's a bit of a shame. He's a bit of a legend and stuff. And I remember like the guy next to me went to buy something, and he was like, "Have you got any fives?" And he took this roll out of his pocket, and he's like going through all these 20s like that. And I went, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. Oh, the money's like, no, I don't have any fives. No. And it was all Jesus, man. But yeah, the whole thing about being behind the stand, it seems like that's an attractive proposition. I'm not trying to talk anyone out of it that wants to come and help me, which would be great. But it's hard work, man. It's hard work. So if you're coming to Blackpool, be nice to your dealers. They're having a hard time. And yeah, I know you want to definitely know you love the trick before you buy it. But, you know, once or twice, just stand in the background and watch me do it to someone else. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing worse when you just try to sell it to the person. You're going, oh, and it does this and this and this, and they're like really interested. I'll come back, you do it again, and then they don't buy it, and you're like, oh. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Blackpool is great, but it's also awful, as everybody knows. It's amazing. It has highs and lows. It's a roller coaster ride, and it'll be weird this year because everyone will be walking around like spreading the plague and all that with no masks on. You crazy English with your crazy. Let's just drop everything now, right? Let's just fine. All that other stuff wasn't working. Let's just go back to normal. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean? You've just got to do what you're told. So I don't know. I'm feeling a bit weird about it this year because it's like I was so risk averse at the start of all this. You know, I'm like sanitizing all the shopping before I brought it in the house. I was getting like hosed down in the garden and coming home from work and stuff. But you get to a stage where you're just like, anyway, that's another subject. I'm looking forward to Blackpool is the answer. Yes, I am going. I'm looking forward to it. And this year, I'm going to have Eric Tate and Nick Lacapo will be on the stand.
Oh well, okay. You, Eric, and you, Eric, and Nick are basically the Mount Rushmore of Penguin. Like with maybe Dan Harlan there as well. I think that I know right, he's not right there, but
he's the main man. Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be on the stand, which means I get to go around, wander around the dealer hall now and again, and that's good. I'll get to. Hopefully, I want to try and see maybe a couple of lectures this year and stuff like that. I'm not sure I understand. I don't understand either. Who does? Who does understand? This was supposed to be on silent. Oh man. Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be a good girl, understand, which means what did my watch think I was saying? Get Goring won the route of Wood Hill and now and again, and that's good. What the hell? Siri does not understand Scottish accents.
Apparently not.
Right, that's getting tossed. Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to try and see a little bit of it this year. I say that, but do you know what? It's because there's so many things on the stand or mine. But when someone comes over and says, "Can I see that?" and this always happens as I'm leaving, they go, "Can I see that?" and Nick's like, "Right, Roddy, you're up. Dance, monkey." And even if they've got it, even if he's like, "Well, I'll show you," and I go, "Oh no, actually, I'll do it," you know, and I want to do it, and I end up doing it over and over and over. But it's great for getting good at one of your own tracks. I'll tell you, when you've done it like 1,000 times. Not that I ever put anything out that I haven't done 1,000 times already, but you do get much better at it. And quite often, I think with Stargate, like when we had released that originally at Blackpool, it was called Quantum, and then Caelan Morelli brought his thing out a year later, and we had to change the name of it when we released it properly. And it was so weird because when his came out, I was like, oh man, that's like almost similar. There's a pen goes through a hole and then moves and comes out another hole, and it's called Quantum. So, But anyway, yeah, that just came. Quantum Stargate, as it's called, just came from playing Portal. You played Portal?
No.
You know, and am I saying it weird? Portal. So it's the game where you fire the blue portal and then an orange one, and when you go through that, you come out the other one. It's a sort of puzzle adventure game, right? So it's on PC. It's huge, really. It's a classic game. Portal 2 is the best one for sure. So it's like basically you're trapped in this environment and evil computers try to kill you, and you're like a test subject. You have this portal gun. So if you fire it's like a Roadrunner cartoon almost. So if I fire a hole there, like it creates a portal, and then I fire the other one in the ceiling. When I jump in that, I'll fall out that one. Right. So it's a way
got it. Yeah.
You solve the problems. You see, oh, I need to get up to that platform. So fire there, and then you step out on the platform. So it was from playing that, I thought, how can I make that into a magic trick? And that's where it came from. You know, when you put the pen in one hole, it comes out another.
It looks so visually awesome. It looks brilliant.
Oh, thank you. The thing with Stargate, I always felt it was a little moment. It was one of these things that, oh, here's a little magic moment. But there was a part of me felt it wasn't quite finished, almost. So I came up with an extra phase to it, an extra little bit, which I did for a TV thing, which is on tomorrow. And I'm going to upload this to Penguin as an extra bit to it, because I think it adds another element to it. It's another wee bit. So yeah, I don't know why I'm saying that. Yeah. So like I say, that came from seeing that in a game and saying, I wonder if I could do that as a track. We were talking about something else, weren't we? Blackpool.
I think we're just completely off track now, but this is cool. This is awesome. You mentioned TV. Look, your methods are so fooling. I mean, they really are. So I remember just not having a clue. Half of the stuff that you bring out, I just can't see a way that it could potentially be possible. So with that in mind, would you ever go on something like Penn and Teller Fool Us?
Well, I did. It's on tomorrow night. That was the thing I did. So.
Oh right, I didn't even know that. Oh yeah. Damn. Okay, brilliant, awesome.
So it's on CW Network tomorrow night,
and therefore on YouTube for the rest of us.
Yeah,
within
exactly.
24 hours.
So I need to work out a way of seeing it. So I think if I do a VPN and I can watch it, I'll work that out today or tomorrow, because I've not seen it. You know, it's like this will be my first time seeing it.
Did you go over to the States, or did you do it the same as Noel and do it virtually?
Yeah, I did. I actually went down to D. Christopher's little studio and shot it with him and Noel down there. So Noel was the inspiration. He was like, honestly, he was like, why haven't you done it? And I was like, oh, I don't know, because I'm lazy and there's not enough time in the day and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I always kind of saw it as that is out of my league. Do you know what I mean? That's different gravy, you know. But no, after Noel did it, I thought, God, if he can do it, like anyone on TV nowadays. No, I always thought, nah, it's not. That's a bit beyond me, kind of thing. But then he's very encouraging. He goes, "Oh, shut up! Don't be stupid." And Noel just phoned me every day. He would phone me and say, because I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And then he'd phone me and be like, "So what have you done today?" And I'm like, well, you know, I had to. And he's like, "No, what did you do?" And I'm like, well, I had to take the kids to school, and then when I came home, I had to. And he's like, "No, did you do anything? Did you do anything with that?" No, I didn't. Right, we'll get it done. And I say, right, oh, okay. And then he phoned me the next day and said, "What did you do today?" So he just harassed me constantly. Mm-hmm. Have you filmed it yet? And I was like, no, I'm still. I've got to make this fake pizza, and you know, it'll take me a while. And he's like, well, we do it today. So he just harassed me. And then, and thankfully he did, because I finally got around to doing it. It was terrifying and awful, but we filmed it down there. And the thing I'm worried about seeing is that it was, the time we filmed it, it was like 35 degrees in that little studio, and I had all the lights on me. And I'm sitting there in pajamas and stuff, and I was sweating, man. I was just like, my face is purple. It was so hot. So
I've been in Dee's little studio. It's yeah.
So hot, man. So we filmed it down there. Although it looks live, there's a kind of live lead into the little act, and then a little live bit at the end when they chat to you and stuff like that. But yeah, it was, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing it, kind of. I don't like seeing myself or hearing myself, so I'm definitely not watching this. But yeah, I'm not keen on that. This is a hard thing, right? So this accent is a hard sell for Americans, right? So like when we do I have to do these pitches for Penguin, right? Like when we're selling a product, and I've got to be all like, "Hey, this is awesome," and blah 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 blah. That's just so not me, right? In fact, that was another, like, from years ago when I did my Penguin lecture. And this is no creeping into my life again. I'd asked him if he got any advice for doing this, and he was like, "Well, don't do your usual crap." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, don't go over there and go, oh, this is just a little thing that I came up with. That's all right." He's like, "Don't do that, because if you tell Americans, or pretty much anyone, this is just a daft little thing," they'll go, "Well, it's just a daft little thing." Right? They'll take you at your word. You're there in a position of authority and saying, "This isn't very good, it's all right." You know, he said, "You've got to go out there and say, this is awesome. This thing will blow people away." That, you know, it's like, you've got to really sell yourself and do that, which I'm terrible at. Like, anytime I do lectures, I ramble on so long talking about the tracks. At the end, I go, "Oh, I've got stuff to sell." People are putting their coat on, the cleaners in, brushing the floor. Do you know what I mean? They're like, "No, we're closing it." I'm like, "But I've got the stuff to sell." No, okay. So I'm a terrible salesman, right? Terrible. And so I find that really hard. And I do pitches for Penguin, and I'm like, I think I'm going, "This thing's amazing. This is the most amazing thing you've ever, blah, blah, blah." And then I watch it back, and it's me going, "Wow, this is the most amazing trick you've ever seen. You've never seen anything like it." It's like, and I watch it, and I'm like, Jesus, I'm so low energy. It's like, I can't do it. I can't do the pitchy thing, the whole, "Yeah, this is awesome." And it's cringy. I can't say, even if I do think it's awesome, I'm not going to say it out loud. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's cringy. But it's part of my job. I need to do it. Do you know what I mean? And it is true. It's like that whole thing of just telling, if you act, "Oh, this isn't very good," then a lot of people just go, "Well, it isn't very good." You know, you've got to have that confidence to say, "This is great, this is brilliant," which is odd. It's like, I remember it was like I was pitching something, or it was maybe in the instructional for some trick, and I said, "The good thing about this is that you can do this, this, and this." And I was really pushing a thing that I thought was great. I can't remember what it was. And then I remember reading like a review comments of it, and someone saying, "Well, the good thing about it is you can do this and this and this," and just quoting what I had said. And they were saying, "Well, this is the great thing about it." And I'm like, "Well, you're just saying that because I told you that." Do you know what I mean? So sometimes that works. You just tell people, go like, "This is good," and they'll believe you. But you know, sorry, ramble again. I'm like,
No,
and I just run out of steam. I was like, run out of petrol at the bottom of the hill.
So you went to Penguin recently, a couple of weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sneak peek? I mean, don't obviously give any trade secrets away or any Penguin secrets away, but can you give us a sneak peek of any other Roddy McGhie stuff that's coming out over the course of 2022? Because we've just had a double header. You know, we had Puzzled, and then at Christmas, and then just a couple of weeks later we had Coinception. So we had 2 come out.
So I found quite a lot of stuff when I was over there, because we had all this stuff sitting for ages. Sorry, I'm going to rummage about here. Oh, so one of the things that I found was, so this little thing is just a, like, you know, sandwich bag thing, and it's a utility device basically that you can do different things with. So this was the one of the projects that I found when I was out there. Sorry, I should do it up here. So I've got loads of different tricks with this. So you can put a card in it, and you change it. You can change it for another card, and it's just an ordinary card, right? It's just an ordinary card. So you do different stuff. It looks better. Let's try and do the vanish properly. There we go. See?
What?
So you can do switches and vanishes, and you put folded cards and billets in it and stuff. So I use it for for billets, for doing like the original thing was it's a folded card. But yeah, so that's one of the things we found when we were out there. And this has been a sort of, like I say, a pet project for ages, because I love this. I love playing about with it. And there's different, let's say, there's different presentations for it and stuff. So that was one of the things we found. What else? I don't think I've got anything else handy. So yeah, what else did we film? That's enough. You're getting enough from me,
mate. That's more than I expected. That's really good. Is there a time frame on that? Because that's just killer.
As quick as I can make them, which is not very quick. I'm trying to make them. I'll tell you, the main problem was trying to get hold of bags. Right, try to get hold of these bags, because this is the thing. I created the gimmick with a bag that I had lying around, right, which just happened to be a 4.5 inch by 4.5 inch sandwich bag, right? Mm-hmm. So I made it with a bag that I just had, and then it's like I said earlier about like the McDonald's toy thing. I was like, I can't find bags that size anywhere, or I did, but they were slightly wrong, or they were too thin, or so it's taken me. I mean, I came up with this years ago, and it's the last year. It's been a real concerted effort to find these bags, and just this week I managed to find a place that did the bags I needed, right? Because the thing with this is it's going to wear out. It's a plastic bag, right? And you want people to use this a lot and use it, they want to get their money's worth. So they will get a lot of bags with it. They'll get a bunch of them, maybe like 10 bags or something, so that it lasts a long time, and the gimmick can be moved to new bags. And right, so I wanted to make this a sustainable thing. Like what Penguin decide to do is up to them. I want to make this so puzzled. I didn't know Penguin were going to just give people one puzzle card with it, right? It's supposed to come with like half a pack of them or something, but that is their decision. They are a business. This should come with a load of bags though, because I made the point of saying that a lot during the tutorial, so they can edit it out. So you're going to get a bunch of bags, and anyway, I'd say it just in the middle of a really important point and do a dramatic pose as I did it, so they couldn't edit it. I would do this and then say, flick my head a few times and say it comes with loads of bags. But they're cheap, so do you know what I mean? You should come with a lot of them, and they're replaceable, even though I found it really hard to find them. At least I can probably put a link to this company where I bought these bags from. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm really excited about this one coming out, because I think it's only limited by your imagination. It's not really, but you could do a lot of things with it, right? So I've got like transpos. I've got one. I wish I had all the different things set up. I've got one where wait till I go down to the basement. I'm not going to do that. Honestly, so these, honestly, these life-saving getting these bags. This was just a samples that I got this week, and they are bang on. So yeah, I've just got lots of different presentations for it. I've got things where I print my business card, which is really good. You just you have a load of blank cards, and if someone asks you for a business card, I go, oh, hold on, I'll print one for you, and you put it in here and you show them it's blank. They can sign it and all that on the back. You show them it's just a blank card, and then I write on it on the contents bit, because this is like dry wipeable. I love the dry wipes. Shares. I've got shares in the company. That's why all my tricks. Magnets and dry wipes. We're gonna go to the top, baby. So I would write magician on there, and then I give it a wee like that, and it changes. It prints itself into my business card, and then you hand it out. But then what I did, just because I thought it was funny, I made another business card where I photoshopped my head onto a big orange bodybuilder and made it as a kind of personal trainer. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm not just a magician, and I'd put another blank one in, I'd write personal trainer on it and do it, and then change it into that one, and you could just keep.
Right.
So you could do loads of stuff with it, and lots of different. I had lots of different routine ideas, and I'm sure I love seeing what other people come up with. Most of the time, sometimes I look on YouTube and see people doing my tricks really badly, and I'm just like, oh, I don't have the power to remove that. You know what I mean? I'm very flattered that people do my tricks and all that. And I was at first, when I first put a trick out and I saw it get ripped off in China, I was flattered then. I was like, yeah, I've made it. Somebody's ripping me off. I'm less flattered now when I realised what little money you make doing it. It's like, man, I actually had. I can't even remember what it was. I was out somewhere with other magicians. Who was I with? Was it with Anthony? Maybe Anthony Owen. Maybe. I was out with other magicians one time, and there was a guy doing magic as he was going around the bar, and he was young and really nervous and full of energy. And he did like an ambitious card routine with like 20 phases that took a minute. It's like, it's up again, and he was really intense. And then he did Little Door to me. And it was a really bad copy of Little Door, right? Like a really badly made gimmick. And he performed it, and I'm like that, and they're looking at me, and I'm just like, wow, that's amazing, mate. And I didn't say anything, and I was just like, we were all like, oh, that's brilliant. But then I was kind of pissed off, like they had this rip-off trick. So I ended up going to talk to him later on, and I kind of said to him, so where'd you get that? And he bought, it's a guy on eBay that sells them. I bought it with this guy on eBay. And I was like, oh, it's really bad. It was like, I said, I invented that trick, you know? And it was weird because he didn't really have the concept of like somebody, you know, it's like when you talk to a lay person, like if people say, what do you do for a living? And I say, I invent magic tricks. You may as well say, like, I'm a unicorn shepherd. Do you know what I mean? They're like, what? Yeah. You invent magic tricks? What? And I'm like, well, I invent magic tricks. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard to describe. It's like that is what it is. But I explained the thing of it, and the thing is, it's like he said it came like got the gimmick, and it came with obviously they ripped my DVD, and it came with me teaching it, and I was like, he didn't even recognise me. It's me that teaches it. Anyway, the long and short of it is, he was quite like, oh, sorry, and apologetic, and I took his address and I sent him one, because I was like, if you're going to do it, I do a good version of it. Do you know what I mean? But I was so like flattered that like somebody had ripped me off at the time. I was just like, wow. But then when I saw it, I was like, oh no, because people are seeing the worst version of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's odd. I know that as soon as if you create a thing and then you release it into the world, fly, my pretty, then you don't have control over it anymore. If somebody wants to expose it on YouTube, or they want to perform it so badly they expose it, then that's just the way it goes. That's the price of it. You know, you can't really help that. You try and educate people, but you can't really. It's out there.
Unfortunately, there's magicians out there that will always buy the copy, you know, as opposed to the original. You know,
yeah, I mean, I have to say, I've like back in the day, when I was first kind of getting into it again, I'm sure I bought a couple of rip-off things, and just because they were cheaper, I was like, oh, we'll get that, because I didn't realise what it was all about. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was like Penguin pretty much started off with that. When Najjar started off the company, they looked at it like any other market, right? They went, you know, the same way like Aldi does. They go, well, they do these Wagyu burgers and Marks and Spencer's. Let's do the exactly same burger. We'll make the packaging look the same, and we'll sell it for like a third of the price. Do you know what I mean? So like they looked at the market in magic and they went, well, you know, these guys sell thumb tips for $10. We can buy these from China and sell them for $5. You know, and so they did that. They put all this stuff out, and they just didn't realise what the deal was, and people lost their shit and were like, you can't do that, that's someone else's creation. And they were like, oh, my bad, didn't realise that that's what it was, and they just totally changed everything. they get rid of all that stuff, and they were like, right, let's do this properly. But they couldn't get their head around it. Well, why is that? We're giving people the option of buying a cheaper version if they want. You know, we're giving the customer, we're giving the consumer the choice, as they do in all other markets. You know, it's like if someone produces this fancy, like I know I used Marks and Spencers and Aldi's as an example, but that is a good example. You know, you can get a version that's almost as good or sometimes better, but it's cheaper, and it's clearly, you know, you see this stuff in Aldi's and Lidl's where it's like Smarties, but it's Smarties, or like with an O. And you know what I mean? You think, how did they get away with that, man? It's the same logo and everything. But they do, and you can see how, like with Penguin coming into the Magic market, that they thought, we're going to provide this service here. And a lot of people jumped on it because they were like, well, I can't afford to buy that Schoolcraft flipper coin. I can buy this one, and that's a bad example because he didn't invent the flipper coin. But you know what I mean? I can't afford to buy Rocco's Delights, so buy these Penguin Delights that are only $2. Do you know what I mean? But they turned it around when they realised it was frowned upon. You know. But yeah, I definitely did that, and I downloaded Magic from torrent sites. You know, but then when I kind of got to know other magicians and again, and I started buying Magic and stuff, I was like, oh God, this is really wrong. This is really bad. Can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
But by the time I was like, free Magic, this is awesome. Yeah. But this is like years and years and years ago, you know. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, again, it's not like me.
I got one more question for you, Roddy. Well, two more questions. The first one, as somebody who works at Penguin and somebody who's created Magic for a very, very long time now, for anybody watching this who wants to become a creator and be rich and famous, I can't say it with a straight face. I tried. What advice have you got to get on Penguin's radar, not just as a Penguin partner, but to actually have Penguin go, you know what, we're going to produce your stuff. We're going to stand behind you. We're going to do a project with you or whatever it may be, or not even just Penguin. I mean, obviously you've got a lot of experience with Penguin, but in the past you've worked with Full 52 and you know the industry really well. So what do people have to do? They've got this idea. It's a good idea. How do they get it to market?
You know, it's a hard one. It's like, you know, things are changing so much now, right? I mean, as the simple answer is just to submit it. Most of the sites you go on, Murphy's and Penguin and Alakazam, there'll be a little box saying submit your idea, and you just, you know, you send them a YouTube video and they'll get in touch with you, and everyone's just really, they're just, I mean, like all these, even like big companies like Penguin, it's only like a dozen people, you know what I mean? And they're nice people. It's not, we see all these big companies as big multinational companies, but they're not, you know, they're just a handful of people, and they'll chat to you and they'll work through it with you. But, you know, like I say, things are changing so much now in Magic, like Instagram and TikTok and like social media is what it's all about. There's people on there and it's bam, this little 10-second clip, whether it works in real life or not doesn't matter, because this is what people want to see, and this is what it's like now. So I don't know if this is the route a lot of people want to go down as much anymore, of like releasing a trick. You know, it's like, it's more like content that's grist for the mill for their social media and stuff like that. Maybe that's the way to go for a lot of people. Like, you know, if people are actually making money doing it, do you know what I mean? It's like they're making money from that kind of exposure. But it's simple to do it. I think for me, it was like finding somebody that I kind of trusted and I had a feeling about. And that was like with Dave, where I was like, right, I've got a big bag full of nonsense here. Who am I going to show it to? And this guy, he seems sound, so I'll show it to him. And, you know, it just kind of went from there. Because most people in this industry they are nice people. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to make money. It's not like someone's going to say, okay, well, I'll take your idea and we'll put it out and we'll let it flourish, and I'll do that at a loss to make sure you're making money. No, everyone's got to make their buck, but they're nice people as well. Although I'm sure there's a lot of not nice people. We don't talk about them. So I don't know, and I know we were a bit tongue in cheek about the whole being rich and famous, but you're right. It's not. You're going to be neither. Certainly not going to be rich. It depends on what route you go down. I mean, it's like if you go down the Dan Harlan route, like he did with Cartoon, where he just drove around every magic shop in America with boxes of these and sold them at the gross. He made a lot of money doing that, but nobody does that nowadays, right? No shops left to do that too. You're not going to make a lot of money. What I would say is, I would always take a percentage over a buyout, and that's just me, right? It depends on your circumstances, what works for you. But most magic companies will say, I'll give you X amount of money for that. I'll give you like 500 quid for it, and we'll give you some units. And a lot of people just jump at that because they want to get their name out there and they're getting a bit of money, and then they'll have some of them to sell or whatever. But if you've got confidence in it, then and you trust the company, then taking a percentage, a royalty deal of like 10, 20%, something like that, is a good way to go, because you'll make more money that way. But you need to trust that they're going to pay you your royalty, and most companies are reputable. But I definitely do that. It's easy to take because I did it at the start. I just took payouts for tricks. I was like, yeah, man, I was sure I got 60 quid for my first gig. So like getting offered hundreds of pounds for some brain fart, you were like, yeah. But then you go on to see it sells loads and you're like, damn. So I'd say take a percentage deal. If you're going to try and put something out there, I don't know, I'm tempted to say, make sure that you've performed it a lot and you've ironed out all the flaws. Right, that would be good, but that's not everyone's good at that, and most big companies will have someone there who's there to do the ironing for you, right? So sometimes even just don't think it's a bad idea, it's terrible. They'll tell you if it is. If you submit it and they go no thanks, then it's back to the drawing board, But yeah, just do it. I mean, if you want to do it, there's nothing stopping you. You could just set up your phone, do a quick performance of it. They're not expecting it to be like you sort of moodily walking down a abandoned train track and all that, and looking into the middle distance and doing a card flourish. They just want to see the track, right?
Yeah.
So just do with your phone, do the track. If maybe explain it a little bit, and if the company likes the look of it and they see there's maybe the seed or something in there, then you're onto something. But yeah, creating is like, it's not a rarefied thing. Everyone can do it. Even if it's just changing a trick a little bit to suit yourself and to suit your style, and then you'll find your style as you do the magic. It'll just come. It's like everyone can create, and everyone should just do it. There's this whole thing of I can't remember who it was. The guy that, oh man, this is going to annoy me. I should remember these things. What's his name? It'll come back to me. It was a very famous author, American author, and he was talking about how things changed for him. Like, I think he was talking to some scout leader or something like that, and he was saying, well, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I play the trumpet and I do this and I do this and I do that, but I don't do any of them very well. So he was really downplaying that whole thing. I'm really taking this out of context and spoiling this amazing quote, but the gist of it was, this guy had said to him, well, you don't have to play something well to enjoy doing it. And like the act itself of being involved in doing that, because the guy was really impressed that he did all these different things, and he was like, well, I'm shit at all of them. He's like, well, the point of it is not to be good at it. If you sit down to draw, then, I always had this thing, and I was always like that with drawing. I love to draw and paint and stuff, but all the things I did never worked out as well as they did in my head. I had a vision of what I wanted to look like, and when it was at the end, I was disappointed. But the act itself of creating something is worthy in itself. It doesn't matter about what you create in the end. It might be awful, it might be great, it might be, but who's to say, who's to judge if it's awful or not? The act of creation is the thing in itself. So just do it. Do you know what I mean? I say to people, just do it. Just do whatever. If it's like, even if you want to come up with a new any card at any number, please don't. But if you do, go for it. You know what I mean? Think of a way of doing it, but maybe look at it different. Like think of the phrase any card at any number and see what comes out of that for you. Like I did with the sandwich trick. I was like, I'm going to have a sandwich trick, which turned into a people predict what is in a sandwich, an actual sandwich. But you know, if you're going to look for inspiration that way and stuff that's already there, just try and look at it from a different angle. You know, it's there, and then look at it from over here and go, when someone says you can clearly see this thing, then well, maybe clear can be something that's clear. So maybe I use an omnideck there, or do you know what I mean? Just playing words and looking at it at a different angle. So I can't even remember what the question was.
How to submit tricks to Penguin
just submit tricks to people. Just do it. Don't be shy. Do you know what I mean? We see so many of them, and there's some real gems in there. You know.
And don't be disheartened. I remember speaking to David Jonathan, and he told me that Snaps, which is one of my favorite Penguin releases of all time, by the way, I love Snaps. He said he shopped that round to 3 or 4 big companies, and everyone said no, and it's Penguin that said yes.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, I get Little Door get knocked back. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, didn't work out with Paul Harris. Murphys were like, and then Penguin picked up. So yeah, I mean that always happens. And the same like J.K. Rowling, you know, the famous thing that she get knocked back from dozens of people, you know, before finally getting published. But yeah, don't get disheartened because people have got terrible taste generally. So if someone says that's terrible, then what do they know? Do you know what I mean? Exactly. It might be, it might well be, but then maybe that's just, you need to go back and look at it again, look at it from a different angle. But I honestly believe everyone's got it in them to create something. I'm not anything special, really. I feel incredibly lucky that people like my stuff. I really do, because I don't really create magic for other people. I kind of make it for myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other people like it is great, right? That was my problem. Like I said at the start when I was with Penguin, the 6 tricks I submitted initially, they were all things I did that were for me. And then I thought, I'm going to have to think up other stuff. And that's where I had a problem when I tried to create magic to sell for the market, for other people, what's going to be commercial. And then when I get rid of that, and I thought, no, I'm just going to create magic for myself, things that I like. You know, do things that you like and that interest you. And that's the whole thing about taking influence from everywhere, from movies and books and stuff like that, and surround yourself by things you enjoy. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why most little man caves have all kind of weird, eclectic things, nice things you like to look at, and music that you like to listen to. And it's like, you know, if there's an artist that particularly inspires you, then look into what inspired them, and then look into what inspired them, and so on and so on, and you'll get to the root of where it comes from. And then it's like that thing, they talk about that in Steal Like an Artist, that it's like a tree, you know, you study a particular artist that interests you, and you look at their inspiration, and you follow that branch down, and you follow that branch, and it opens up the whole picture, because everyone steals from everyone else. No one's like a true original that appeared from somewhere. Their influences come from somewhere else, and they all create this tree. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you can create your own branch, you know, because everyone looks at things in different ways. You know, it's like the way I can say that's red, and you agree that that's red, but I might see red totally different from you. It might be that the way I see red is green to you, but we both recognize that as red, so we call it red. So everyone sees things differently. That's quite an extreme example. So sometimes when you look back on other people's influences, you're looking at it with a different set of eyes. You'll see something different. But yeah, start in the route of looking at the people who inspired you, and look at what inspires them.
Yeah,
that was probably not the question you asked me.
It was in a roundabout sort of way. So that's fine. Well, I've got one last question. And this has been an incredible interview, but I have to ask you this. You've achieved so much. You got the dream job. You know, a lot of people would love to work for Penguin Magic as a creator. I mean, that is a dream.
I'm so lucky, yeah.
But I mean, you've created so many tricks that are iconic that for you. You know, you've just told me that you've gone on Foolish. You have an incredible career. Is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you haven't achieved yet that you'd like to do? Is there anything that you've still got? Well, you done it. Yeah, Magic TV.
Right, I'm done now. I'm out of here.
Done.
Yeah.
See you later. Is there anything else?
Like
Is there anything that you want to do that you kind of think, you know what, before I know your career's nowhere near the end, but before you get to the end, you go, you know, I'd like to have achieved this. I'd like to do this.
I mean, honestly, I wish I'd started this when I was younger, because I'll be like 50 next month, and I'm like, oh my God, that's terrifying, half a century, and I feel old, man. Honestly, if I get up in the morning and something doesn't hurt, I think I've died during the night. But it's that, like, I wish I'd started it earlier, but I feel like it's just starting for me now. I know I've been doing this for years and I've things out. I'm on this little roll now where I've had the fullest thing, and like we're getting a lot of products coming out, and I don't know. I just want to keep it going. I want to lecture. Like before the pandemic, I had sort of decided this. I'm going to lecture now. I'm going to do more lectures because I've done a few. The problem was that when you do lectures in Scotland, that even though I do one maybe in Glasgow and then I do one in Aberdeen, some of the people from Glasgow were there, and I mean it's far. It's like 4 hours. Do you know what I mean? And then I do one in like Paisley, and then all the people, the Glasgow one came in, and I'm like that. Like let's just look at this as a greatest hits, because you've seen all this before. Do you know what I mean? So I want to cast my net, and I decided to do that, and I wanted to do a lecture in the States or across Europe. Although that's obviously more difficult now with the whole Brexit thing as well, the Europe thing. But I had plans that just got, like all magicians did, we all had plans that just got like scuppered during the pandemic. So I'd love to do that. I'd love to do the a bit more lecture, maybe a little lecture tour for a couple of weeks in the States. Because now I've got a bunch of products to sell. I know it's like, let's not be naive, right? When you're doing a lecture, you're there with your snake oil, and you don't make a lot of money, right? They don't pay you a lot to lecture, and it's a lot of time you spend and effort that you put into it. So your return is in selling your product to the end. As we've established, I am awful at that, right? I'm no Josh J. I'm telling you, man, the stuff I bought from Josh J at lectures, things that I didn't want. He's a brilliant salesman. He's the best. Mark Mason, these guys, man, do you know what I mean? They're just like, they just beating you over the head during the lecture. At the end, you walk out bewildered with a bag full of stuff that you didn't know you needed. So I need to get better at that. I'd like to get better at doing that part of it, but it's not really me. I'm not really driven by money. Hence, I mean, Jesus, man, I wouldn't be doing this job if I was, right? Because it ain't coming. But no, I'd like to do more lecturing because I enjoy that. I enjoy the sound of my own voice. And I like talking about magic, clearly. I like talking about it. And I like talking to other magicians about it, because I don't really know a lot of other magicians. I don't talk about it a lot. So when I do, it goes on for like 2 hours at the very least. Jesus. I like talking about it. Do you know what I mean? I like talking about the process of it, and it's just brilliant, isn't it? Isn't it great, magic? What a great thing. I mean, I would never have dreamed this as a kid. And I'd love to go to Vegas, and I'd love to maybe do a little show. Like, I need to get better at doing things on stage, right? I got some really great advice on that from Brent Braun a few years ago when he was working with Penguin, because I enjoy doing it. It's terrifying, but I enjoy getting up on a stage. I just need to learn the skills of doing it. You know, I go up and try and do close up on stage with my back to the audience and all that. You know, it's just awful. So I'd quite like to do that, and I don't know. I'd like to do, you know, like yourself, do a lecture at Blackpool maybe at some point. You know, that would be.
I'd love to see that.
I would like to do that. I would like to. I don't know what else. What other magic things are there to do? Would you want to do? You tell me what sort of things would you want to do? Because I've been looking at the stuff you've been saying online that you'd like to do, but what else is on there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do a Penguin Live, which is happening. I'd like to lecture at Blackpool, which has happened. I'd like to perform at the Magic Castle.
Oh, the Castle, yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to perform and lecture at the Castle. I'd like to do an American lecture tour. I'd like to lecture at the Magic Circle again, because I've only done that once. Although that's happening as well. Anything else? I'd like to. My goals revolve around Magic TV. I want to make it like a big platform that everybody tunes into. So and the podcast that I do with Lloyd, I'd like that to be like the number one podcast in Magic. I've got to a point now where I just kind of want to give back. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm doing all this content. So
Yeah, it is happening. So you're getting that, and these are not unattainable goals. Do you know what I mean? They're like, it's not like I'm saying I want to sort of headline my own huge show in Vegas. Oh, that be all right. Who'd like to see that? Yeah. I'd like to do more TV. I'd like to do a lot. I enjoy that, right? I enjoy the TV thing. It's terrifying and it's awful when you're doing it, but it's like really exhilarating, like when people just say to you, right, I need, a box of chocolates that turns out inside out, a flying plant pot, and anything you can think of with jelly babies, and I need it tomorrow. And you're just like, I need to think of the tricks, I need to make them, I need to come up with the methods, and I need to make 3 of all of them by tomorrow. And you're like, oh, and you're up all night with like styrofoam, and it's terrifying, but it's great fun as well, and it's good to, and then you see your magic on TV and stuff like that. So I'd like to do more of that. I like the consulting thing. But I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it'd be nice just to continue doing it. Like, I feel very lucky that I get to do this. And when the pandemic hit and I was still getting paid to work in Magic while everyone else was losing their gigs and stuff, and I lost a lot of gigs, Thank God I put all the deposits into a separate account because I had my fingers bummed there before, and I had to pay back a deposit. And I was like, oh my God, I spent that. Because I paid thousands back to people, so we were all in that boat. But God, how incredibly lucky that I was still able to stay in Magic and like keep my head above water and not have to just, drive for Amazon or something like that. So I feel incredibly privileged, and I remember at the time, like, when it happened, I just couldn't quite believe it. I know that people have this whole, like we say earlier, that you live a champagne lifestyle. I do not. I get by just about, but we don't get into it for the money, right? If you're thinking about getting into Magic for the money, then don't get into Magic, because it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's not saying you can make a lot of money, especially gigging, right? You can make a lot of money doing that, and it's a nice lifestyle. But the pandemic has shown us that something like that is not necessarily sustainable. But we're getting back there now, right? Which is great for everyone. We're getting back there. These things are always going to happen, right? This is just human history. But yeah, am I still answering a question, or did I go off?
That was a perfect answer. That was a perfect answer to the final question.
You need to edit this down to at least.
I am not editing a damn second out of this, because it's been equal parts inspirational, educational, and damn hilarious. It's been one of my favorite interviews, Roddy. I mean, I wax lyrical on you about you on this channel all the time, because I want everyone to know how amazing your stuff is, and everyone.
Honestly, I'm so flattered by that, really, and the fact that that Ryland's into my stuff as well is great.
Well, he's got an Instagram channel, and he put Puzzled up on there, and he's just put Coinception up on there, and he did Stargate the other day.
That's
out of everybody.
Yeah, he must see so much Magic, right? And kids are discerning, right? My little boy's, he knows what he likes. Do you know what I mean? So for him to pick, like, he's exposed to more Magic than any other kid in the UK, probably, in the world.
I would say he is, yeah.
For him to pick my stuff out is great, because that is what Magic's about. I don't do kids Magic. People say to me, do you do kids Magic? And I'm like, I do, but I do it to adults, right? Because that's what it's about, is childlike wonder, isn't it? And that's why my stuff's a bit whimsical and a bit silly, and because I'm just a big kid myself. We all are. We're all pretending to be adults, or are we? Is it just me? Is it just me? No. I'm not doing a very good job of it, but you know what I mean. So when if someone like you, like a kid who's really keen on Magic and is like, this is the direction, and we were both that age and, you know, doing that thing, for them to sort of gravitate towards yours is a great compliment. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he's coming to Blackpool, and it's going to be his first Magic convention. And he's got a list that he made in his bedroom the other night of people that he wants to meet. And you're right at the top of that list. So he's going to be so excited that you come. No, seriously, you are. So
that's great. But honestly, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me because, like I say, I don't create magic for kids. I don't perform magic specifically for kids. But you know, if they are there at a wedding, I do the same stuff with them that I do with the adults. We do Little Door, we do Flux, and so because kids can understand it and it's magic. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to sit down and do an ace assembly with adults, never mind kids. I love that stuff. That's what I get into, you know, serious card magic and stuff like that. That was my start.
Well, you're Scottish. I think you've got to. It's a law that you've got to study serious
card
magic.
Right? You've got to. Which is nice because it gives you some skill to fall back on. I mean, it's like I like to make it clear to people I can do sleight of hand, right? I'm not great at it, but I can do it, and it's one of my favourite things to do. I've got a card under glass routine that I do using Chris Congreve's The Light, which is the best, I think, the best card to impossible location, you know, like mystery box thing. It's so good. Other than this, woohoo!
Oh, that's even better.
But it's great. I love The Light. It's the best thing I ever did. Love it. So I have a routine, and it's kind of based off of John Bannon's card under glass. But I had all these different sort of parts to it, and it's my little powerhouse sort of kick finisher on my three trick set. One of my 3 trick sets when I'm doing walkabout, and I just love doing it because there's a lot of sleight of hand and misdirection. So I can do that stuff. I can, honestly, but you know, when it comes down to like just magic, like what, you know, just sort of frying people's brains. I mean, I get my brain fried by serious procedural card magic all the time because my brain doesn't work like that. I don't understand it. You know, like some shuffleboard thing. I'm just like, huh? You know, she just throw the Galbraith principle at me, and I'm just like, I don't really know how it works, but you know, I'm going to go over there and I'll have forgotten about it in 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? I'll be blown away by it. I love that stuff. I do. And I puzzle over it and I go, how's that done? Because my brain doesn't work that way. But the kind of magic I do, I want it to leave an impression. I want it, because you know, people, magic is greater in its retelling. You know, when people go away and they talk about it to someone else, it grows arms and legs, right? So I want to give them something weird that's, you know, got the space to grow these arms and legs later on. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm talking about now, but yeah, we'll just slowly slink off. This is the thing. I just do with any audience that's still watching. I'll just do what they're doing now. Like, what is this?
I guarantee you, they're on the edge of their seat like I am because it's been
because they're dying to get to the toilet. Like, you're going to shut up. You can pause it. You know, watch it in installments.
Roddy, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing interview. Everyone should go and buy your stuff. Can people connect with you on socials? Where's the best social media to connect on? Are you active on Instagram or Facebook? Or
well, yeah, both. Instagram I'd kind of not really done much with, and my daughter was like, Dad, and try to get me on. She's like my Instagram manager now, so I'm going to be more active on it. Definitely, I was a bit shy about it, and but yeah, there'll be a lot more coming. You know what I mean? I've got the opportunity now to kind of. I mean, this is like, honestly, if you think working for like a magic company is like great, we're kind of going down a different route now, which is like that original sort of thing that I had about working behind the stand, where you're like, oh, that would be great. So now I've got the opportunity. I'm like a kid in a candy shop where I can say, right, see that trick you've got there that's maybe 10 years old, can you send that to me? Because I'm going to do something mad with it. And then coming up with a new presentation and putting it out there. So I've got that opportunity to do that now. So you'll be seeing a lot of me doing my own stuff, maybe ideas that I'm not intending in releasing, that are maybe not particularly commercial, but a nice little visual moment, or stuff that you've seen before, but in a different way, or different presentations for my own stuff. But I'll be doing other people's things. So yeah, Facebook I'm mostly on, but an Instagram thing I'm going to push, and I'm just way too old for TikTok. I mean, look at this, man. TikTok. That's what I hear all the time. Is TikTok, the time ticking by, the seconds of my life. That's what TikTok is to me. It's like that. Oh, the inexorable passage of time. Anyway, talking rubbish now.
No, you're not. No, you're not at all. I'm going to put a link down below to Instagram, to the Roddy McGhie section on Penguin, and to Facebook. I'm going to stick all of those links down in the description. And more importantly, Roddy is one of the nicest people in Magic. So if you see him at Blackpool or any other convention, just make sure that you chat to him. No, chat to him. And what he likes more than anything else is to go over to the stand he's working on and ask him over the course of 3 days to see the same trick 15 times. He loves that. Yeah. So make sure you do that to him as well.
Do come up and talk to me, though. I do like that and all that, but don't say I'm a genius, because I can't handle that. It's nice, right? It's nice when folks say that, but I am not a genius. It's like Stephen Hawking's a genius, right? Like, Einstein, genius. I just make up mad magic tricks. I was just like,
Please continue. On behalf of the Magic community, please continue making mad magic tricks, because that's why we love you, mate.
I'll try.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for jumping on the channel.
No, thank you
so much. I really appreciate it. Guys, leave a comment down below, because Roddy will see it, and leave a comment down below. Don't forget to check out all of his stuff. I'm doing a Roddy McGhie review show special soon, by the way. You bet you didn't realize that. So that's coming soon. So check out that.
Huh? You asked me to do the interview first before you do the review show, because
Yeah, I'm thinking. And yeah, I will be back again tomorrow with another video. So I'll see you again tomorrow. But Roddy, one more time, thank you so much, my friend.
No, thank you. It's awesome. Thank you so much.